Today we're going to comment on a new video by Chad Foster, and he's finally actually supporting living or going to Manila. I'm surprised. He is, I believe, one of the first bloggers that actually supports living, dating, staying in Manila. I'm actually happily surprised. I've been supporting living in Manila or Makati for years, and I'm saying it's the best place in the Philippines for general living and dating and everything else. It's just the most, in my opinion, the best and the most wonderful place in the Philippines. But let's dive in and hear what he has to say. He's actually spelling out the reasons in detail why Manila is better for almost everything. So again, I'm surprised, but I'm going to chime in as we go here. So let's see what he has to say.
This last trip to Manila really opened my mind up a little bit about Manila and about some of the things that I think make Manila a better fit, without a doubt, for some people. And also because my buddy Nick is out here to meet a girl that he met online in Manila. And he's been chatting with her for several months, for like 10 months or something like that. And he's finally able to come out here. He's going to spend a week with her after we do this trip. I'm going to tell you something. He actually is onto something as far as finding the kind of girl that works for him. He was very much strategic in how he was searching. And girls in Manila were the only girls he was looking for. And I'll get to that. I'll explain why. But let me back up a little bit. So I've spent most of my time in Cebu City. I feel like I know it pretty well. I've always made that my home base to come back to when I need city time. If I want to stay in a condo.
Yeah, I've stayed in Cebu myself, but the way I would describe it is it's just like a smaller version of Manila. It's yeah, it has some pluses, it has some benefits, but it's nowhere near as exciting and big as Manila. Maybe some of you expats you don't want the big city, but I'm saying to find a smaller area of Manila and you focus on that, whether that's BGC or Makati or Rockwell or Greenbelt or any of the sort of the high-end clean areas in Manila. That's your choice, but let's see what else he has
with
to
amenities,
say.
or if I wanted access to city type stuff. And it's also a good gateway too. It's got the ferry, it's got the airport right there, and so you can go anywhere you want to from Cebu. And it just
Yeah, and that's a major point. The the major airport of the Philippines is in Manila. So why bother flying out or making your vacation or your trip to the Philippines more expensive with extra flights, extra hotel bookings, whatever? You can just do everything in Manila. I recommend Makati, of course. That's where I live for a number of reasons. But yeah, your trip to the Philippines will be easier, simpler, and cheaper if you just get off the plane on the first stop that you arrive, or the first airport that you arrive in the Philippines. I believe, actually, I have to correct myself. I believe Cebu, maybe even Davao, has some international flights, but I'm not sure what they are. But Manila is the international hub, and you just can't go wrong when you get off the plane in Manila and stay in Manila. It's cheaper, simpler, and just more options all around. But let's hear what else Chad has to
worked for
say.
me. Manila was always just too big. I always felt it was just too big and too much, but I never really gave it a chance either. So what I noticed this time around, staying right on the edge of BGC, right where that Van Ness Grand Canal Mall is, it's basically kind of right there with BGC. And I've stayed in BGC before. I made a video on it. And
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend staying in BGC. It's too sterile. It's too clean. It's too organized and too modern. I prefer a little Filipino culture, and my mix of culture and modern lifestyle is in Makati, in Greenbelt area. That's where I live now. It's not it's not too sterile like BGC. and it's not too clean that you feel like you're in Singapore, where you got to watch your step, where you're. Yeah, I won't go into that because it's a crime to chew or spit out chewing gum in the Singapore, but that's another topic.
And super, super nice. But it's nice on a different level, in my opinion, than what's nice in Cebu. It's nicer in just the way that I feel. It's nicer in the way that they've developed everything. I feel like they've just taken it to the next level. It's sort of like, and it's not just BGC, by the way. There's Makati, like the Greenbelt area. There's another area I went to when I was there. I'm gonna put it right here on the screen, and it's another beautiful area with this beautiful mall, and it's high end. So if you appreciate.
Yeah, I would say another area to consider in Manila is Rockwell. Um, I wouldn't recommend staying near the red light area called Burgos in Manila, because that gets a little too noisy at night. It gets hard to sleep because they play music and rock bands most of the night, and yeah, it's just sort of a sleazy area. You don't want to be living in that part of town. But Greenbelt or Rockwell are very, very luxurious, very clean. There's no sleaze going on or prostitutes walking down the streets.
Nice stuff and you appreciate modern, and if you want those comforts and that's important to you coming to a developing country, you can get away from that. Some people don't want that. They want the opposite. So this is not for you. But if you like the city and you like amenities and you want to feel like my friend Nick, he'll admit it. Like when he sees the parts of the Philippines, which is the majority of the Philippines, that's so different than back home, it feels messy and it feels chaotic and there's exposed wires and there's garbage perhaps, or just.
Yeah, and just the fact that the medical care should be a top priority for most middle-aged or older guys kind of rules out, at least for me, going to the province or going to the smaller cities. It's just not a point for discussion. I mean, if you want to play with your life and take a chance and a risk, yeah, you can go to the province for a few days or a week, a couple of weeks at the most. But I would never live there. It's too dangerous for your own personal safety in terms of health and poor medical care.
There's just stuff everywhere. It's not organized, tidy. It feels messy. It feels a bit, yeah, it's not what you're used to. If you're used to going to Hawaii, if you're used to going to an all-inclusive in Mexico, or if you're traveling in Europe or around the US, Canada, whatever, Australia, New Zealand, places that I've been to, it's different here. There's not the attention to detail in a lot of the Philippines. And what they consider a done job, we would consider half finished or something, right? But if you go to these areas in Manila, like BGC, like Makati or parts of Makati, you're not going to feel that. You're going to walk for hours in different directions and feel, wow, this is super nice. This is super modern. This holds up against other amazing cities around the world, like big time. And in some cases, like better. BGC is quite nice, quite safe. And to compare it to Cebu, it has some of that, but it's so much less. It's smaller areas. IT Park is not.
Yeah, I agree totally. Cebu is smaller, and you basically only have a couple of areas that are worth kind of walking around or visiting. But in Manila, you got many, many locations: Greenbelt, Rockwell, got BGC. Those are my top three super clean, super nice, super modern areas. Like I mentioned, I think BGC is too sterile, too clean. I like a bit of, surprise when you turn a corner on the street and you see a few restaurants that you have never seen before, or you might want to go in to investigate. I like a bit of unplanned adventures. Put it that way.
Massive. Cebu Business Park is kind of smaller because it's really just Ayala Mall, and the rest are just offices mainly. And so outside of that, Mactan Newtown, and there's some other new developments, like just random things that they're building. But outside of that, and you literally can walk through, in and out of Ayala Mall, and you're back into what feels more like a developing country. to me, that's a lot of the charm of the Philippines. But there's times where, yeah, you just want some of those nice comforts, right? In Manila, you can get lost in the niceness for days, weeks, months, whatever. You're not going to get maybe bored of it quick because there's so much more. There's so much more in Manila, and the nice is nicer. I feel like the construction, the attention to detail. I think they've just taken it to that next level where they really were thinking, okay, we want to be one of the best cities, in the world. And I don't want to knock Cebu. I love Cebu, but sometimes it feels some of the stuff they've done, maybe it's a little rushed. Maybe it's a little, the attention, the detail's not there.
Yeah, I totally agree. Philippines is not known for being detailed oriented, and when they do maintenance on the buildings or do repair, it's sometimes very, not a complete job. So I agree. Manila should be the number one place for all expats, unless you're looking for the beach. There's no beaches in Manila. Well, there is a beach, or maybe could be called a beach, near the American embassy in Manila, but it's not something to write home about. It's not a beautiful beach like Boracay. But if you do drive for maybe an hour or two to Batangas, there are some very beautiful beaches down there. But I haven't been there myself, but I've seen videos about it, and it looks very nice.
A year later, the tiles are popping up and stuff like that. So I don't know. Please comment if you disagree. I'm just trying to make an observation to compare the two. I love Cebu. I love all the out of the nice area charm of the Philippines. Some of these things that my buddy Nick's not used to, I don't really think about as much anymore. So anyways, but Manila is going to be a better fit for you guys if you really want the city. You like and appreciate the city and the nice city. And you have all the old parts of Manila too. Don't get me wrong. You have the developing country parts, and you have, like, I stayed in Pembo, Makati. I loved it. It's like the wet and dry markets and the busy, the crowds of people, and it's older. But to me, there's a lot of charm in a neighborhood like that, right? Okay, that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. The other thing that I really noticed being in Manila, and then with talking to Nick about his, this girl that he's going to meet, is I think Manila, it can actually be a fantastic place to meet somebody. Fantastic. So obviously it's a huge dating pool. It's a massive city, but a lot of the girls that you'll meet there are from the province. I've met some just like working at restaurants or whatever, talking to people, or even taxi drivers, like whatever. People in Manila are from all over the Philippines, Mindanao, Leyte, whatever, and they come there for work opportunities.
Yes, and you guys that are looking for a province girl, surprise, come to Manila, because they go to Manila to find work. So the girls that are living in Manila, unless they are born here, they are always from the province, and they bring that, whatever you call it, that province attitude, the sweetness, the gentleness, the a great wife material. They bring that attitude with them when they move to Manila to work in the big city.
So right off the bat, you can think, well, a lot of these people have that foundation, that province Filipina, traditional backbone, and traditional, like, family values, and the way that they think and the way that they might think about a relationship and all that stuff. So you get that, and then you get the balance of someone that's been exposed to more things. A lot of them have degrees and now they're working in the city. So educated, working experience, showing a level of responsibility and commitment to what they're doing.
Yeah, and remember Manila, or Makati specifically, it's the financial center or financial capital of the Philippines. So everybody that's worth something, they have to go through Manila or live in the Manila area.
And so it ticks a lot of boxes for a lot of people. Like, if those are important things to you, because what comes of that is more relatability for a lot of guys, maybe better English, better conversation. This comes up a lot, like for me and other people I meet, like how it can be hard to connect with some province girls because of the language, because of the lack of exposure to different things. So again, to each their own, right? Some people might want that. And of course,
Yeah, and you can get the more hardcore, the educated Manila girls and city girls attitude. And if you want that, you can get that. But yeah, personally, I like the sweetness of a girl Perhaps she doesn't have to be from the province. The girl I've been dating, she was born in Manila, or very close to it. She's spent most of her life in Manila, and but there's some good and bad about Manila girls. But if you want a city girl, this is the place to come. I mean, they know fashion, they know how to speak good English usually. There's just so many pluses.
Over time, people can change. But if you want to connect with someone right away and know what they're about, a place like Manila, there are so many options like that. They could even be working domestic jobs. They could be there as a nanny. They could be there as a cleaner or whatever, which, again, for a lot of people, that's fine. It's not like they're looking for a girl that is rich to take care of them. A lot of guys just want a girl that's responsible, that's not just sitting around, in the province, not doing much and waiting for a foreigner to rescue them. And not all Filipinos are doing that, but there are a number of them that just aren't doing much with their life. And in Manila, most girls that you're going to meet are there because of work and something that they're doing with their life, which is a great trait. A lot of guys will relate to this. I know it. So I want to talk about Nick right now and what he did. And he's about to meet a girl that I just know through like him describing her and stuff. She's 30 years old. She does not have much relationship experience at all, which is rare, really rare. You're never going to find that in the West, right? But she's been focused on school and then career and then not one.
Yeah, I would take the not much relationship experience with a grain of salt. Uh, they all basically say that. They try to play the innocent card, and they will maybe even lie about having had only one boyfriend or no boyfriend. But that's another topic. I would just take that with a grain of salt. But Manila girls are usually more experienced in everything, including relationships.
Wanting to jump into the wrong relationship, and it took her a lot longer to get to a point where she's really thinking about it. So there are a lot of girls like that in like 25 to 30 that don't have much relationship experience, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's they're not jaded from past relationships, but she brings a lot of like the traditional value type stuff. Like she wants Nick to lead, and she's mentioned it to him, and he's like not used to that because of what it's like in the West. But she's mentioned how she wants to be the type of partner that takes care of him, wants him to lead, and her to lead in her way, and him to lead with certain things and all that. And it's he's like, it's so refreshing. It's so
Yeah, I think that depends on the girl. Some of the Manila city girls are very independent and strong, and they feel kind of insulted if they're being treated like merchandise that can just be bought and supported with money, etc. In my experience, they get offended if you just try to buy them off.
refreshing, the experience that he's having over these last 10 months getting to know her, and just how thoughtful she is, and how with her not having a lot of experience and getting comfortable with him, getting to know him over time, like he feels like she's really ready to commit and be loyal and devoted and those kind of things, which that's like a dream come true for a lot of guys to find a girl like that. Money is not an issue for her. So she is like a leader of a team in some company. So she's like a supervisor, doing quite well. She's independent. She lives with her family because that's normal here. But she said she can afford her own place. He showed me some photos and videos, and she's like driving in a decent car. So she's got money, and that was a
Yeah, so that's the downside of the big city girl with a decent job. They are independent. They are strong. They will talk back to you when you suggest something or try to offer something. They're not desperate for support or desperate for somebody on a man on a white horse coming in to rescue them. So that's the downside of the Manila city girls. They are brighter, smarter, and more worldly, but they are very strong, or can be strong, or very independent. But it sounds like the girl Chad is describing is a good fit or a good match for Nick, the guy that he's talking about.
big thing for Nick. He didn't want someone that he had to worry about, wanting him only for the money. And that's a benefit of meeting someone that's in the city that is working, and even girls that work full time and are not making a lot of money, they tend to have a little bit of pride in that, in being able to look after themselves. And I've noticed that with girls that I've met. So, this is another real benefit of meeting someone in the city. So this girl seems like a gem. He's going to meet her soon, and maybe I'll do a follow up. And I told him I want to interview him too, and see what he can say about this. But this is huge.
Yes, Chad, please do a follow up video on Nick and his new girlfriend. I'll be most interested.
Educated, traditional, not needing money at all. Like, it's not even a conversation about like looking after her and her family. So there are girls that are doing very well and their family has money and they don't need money at all, yet they want to be with a foreigner. And she's described to him that she had a bad experience with a Filipino before, and she's seen other bad experiences with other girls. And there's also an element that she said it's sort of like this fantasy thing for some Filipinas, this idea of marrying a foreigner. Some say even like for the kids, like they
Yeah, it's like we Western guys that come to the Philippines, we think Filipinos are beautiful and exotic and special. Well, the Filipinos think that about us Western guys. They think the blue eyes and the tall posture and our worldly experience and whatever is very attractive.
want the genes. They have this thing. It's like, it's a big thing here in the Philippines. It's been that way for a while. So it's not always about the money. Sometimes it's just about this really romanticized fantasy, cool aspect of being with someone from another country. That is a big thing here for Filipinos. So there you go. It doesn't have to be about the money.
Yeah, it's not just being from another country. The Filipinos love blue eyes. They love white skin. They love just the genetics that's different from the local Filipinos, or Pinoys, I should say, the local guys. They love something that's opposites or different from themselves, and I think it's always been that way. Even when the Vikings in the Middle Ages traveled around Europe, they were fascinated by the dark-haired, dark-skinned people of Spain and the other countries in Europe, Southern Europe, and I think it's always been that way. Always be that way. Opposites attract.
In their case, the age gap isn't huge. He's 43 and she's 30, actually like 32. So closer in age. These are things to think about too, as girls get a bit older, more mature, and the way that he's describing her, it's very different than a girl that's in her early 20s, maybe even mid 20s. Naturally that's going to improve over the years. I think the relatability, the maturity and stuff like that. Last thing I want to talk about though, this would be potentially a downside to Manila. What I noticed is, because it's a big congested city, if you're matching with a girl online, let's just say you come in and you hop on a dating app or something, it's not easy to get from point A to point B sometimes. So you might chat with someone and on the map, they're actually quite close. And they're like, oh my God, that is so far. I can never make it to where you are. You almost have to date within this little tiny area within Manila, because it's just this ordeal sometimes to get across the city.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. When you go on a dating app, first thing you should ask is what part of Manila do you live in? Because getting from one end to the other could be 2 hours, and that's when there's no traffic. It could be 3 hours if there's traffic. So that's one of the first criteria. You not only have to like the profile that you're looking at, but you got to find out what part of Manila does she live in. And the other thing you should ask is, does she have money to actually pay for a taxi or a bus or the transportation to come and meet you? I don't recommend you traveling out to meet the girl in an area of Manila that you've never been before. You should stay in your local area where you live, in a hotel or an apartment, and you should offer to pay for the girl's transportation to come and meet you. And this is a little tip from me as well. If the girl says, oh, I don't have money for transportation, and she's sort of suggesting indirectly that you should offer to send her some money before you meet, don't fall for that. But because there are many, many scams in Manila and any other part of the world. Don't send money to a person you have never met. Period.
You know, what looks like nothing could take hours sometimes. If you needed to go like all the way across the city, depending on the time of day, it can really be a bit of a thing. It really can. And so if you're staying in BGC, you know, BGC, Makati, and some other areas, that becomes your dating pool. And whether or not that's good enough or not is just something to think about. So unless you're meeting online like he is,
Yeah, I don't recommend making BGC or Makati your dating pool. Just think about it for a moment. Just realize this, that most of the apartments in BGC and Makati are very expensive. You're talking 25,000 pesos and up just for a basic studio apartment. And most Filipinos, they live in an apartment that costs 5,000 pesos and up. So it's like you won't find any single Filipinos living in BGC or Makati. They would usually commute, they would work in BGC or Makati, but they would commute maybe an hour or so after work to go home outside of Makati or outside of BGC. So don't have the correct mindset. You won't find any potential targets in BGC or Makati. You might see them as workers for lunch or whatever in those two areas, and you can probably exchange contact information. But it will be a problem to see them after their work because they have an hour to commute uh, to and from work.
and he's just going to meet her and her alone. You know, he flies in, and then in this case, when we come back, he's just going to take a taxi to the area that she is in Manila. They're going to stay there, and then they're just going to bounce around together. But if you're boots on the ground, moving to the Philippines, you're going to live here, you got to consider that. Like, that's the downside of Manila. By the way, it's not to say that these things cannot happen in Cebu City. I just noticed that Manila is by far and away the place where people come from all over the country to do these kind of things, to get from high-end jobs to low-end jobs. Manila is the place. It's just there's more of it. It's a bigger dating pool, and you're going to have access to.
Yeah, it's a bigger dating pool. I think it's about 10 million people that live in Manila area. So just based on the numbers alone, and I actually ran a dating website about 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. And I can see the new dating profiles were coming in from Manila every single day by the floods. But not too many new dating profiles in Cebu and Dumaguete or some of the other areas that expats frequently travel to. So you will have a big pool of fish to choose from when you come to Manila or you start dating in Manila.
The type of girl that Nick was attracted to, which is someone that is more in a career, self-sufficient, fully financially. Nick's well off, so it's not like he needs that. He wanted to feel like without any doubts that the money was not going to be an issue, and he found someone that seems to be like this really amazing balance of both sides: the tradition, you know, the girl that's not like the typical Western girl, but also self-sufficient financially. So we'll see how that goes. Anyways, guys, that's just a little run-on, ramble-on thought that's been popping up in my head, and I wanted to share it with you guys. I'm going to make videos soon